speaking in public, and I've got nothing to offer you. This was a prayer that I prayed to God when I was 16, and I was sitting on a couch in the living room, and I just listened to a sermon about evangelism, and God was pricking my heart, and He said, Enoch, you are sinning. You are studying too much, you're eating too much of the little book, and you're not working off those spiritual calories for the salvation of souls. You're learning far more than you're actually sharing with others. And my heart was so convicted, but I was just thinking, like, I have nothing to offer God. What am I ever going to do? And it was at that moment that God told me that it was an internet ministry that led me to the Lord. So why can't God use an internet ministry through me to lead others to the Lord? And it's like a light bulb went on. I thought, I could do that. That sounds doable. Because in my experience, I was actually put in special education class because I was socially, developmentally stunted. I was behind all of my other peers. So I didn't know how to communicate with them, with the people. I played video games so much one summer that I developed a severe stuttering problem. Like, I literally didn't talk to people because I was just typing to them. And I didn't have good relations with my mom and sister, so I didn't really talk much to them. And it's almost like that was just it just made things even worse. So being bullied, picked on because I was the second fattest kid of an elementary school, about 1,000 students, having big ears. It was easy for to be a target of some of the kids. They can be pretty ruthless. So when it comes to the social skills, that wasn't something that I learned. That wasn't something that I was naturally gifted at. In fact, I had a very difficult time connecting with people. So ministry or like speaking in front of an audience in a bow tie, it's like that's the last thing that you would ever imagine that I would be actually doing as a career, as a profession, dedicating my life to. So let alone actually doing a speaker training where I train help professionals how to speak and give presentations. Today, I want to talk about connection and some of the lessons that I've learned about how to connect with people on a deep basis. I was how to make friends, how to make these authentic connections, how to relate with people. Because some lessons I've learned is that it's common ground that connects. It's the differences that divide. So really, the human heart, we crave connection, we crave community, we crave under being understood, or this feeling of empathy. This is why Jesus is so beautiful to us, because he was touched with the feelings of our infirmities. And um, I remember in my early 20s when I was starting my health education business, I had attended this event where this guy was speaking. We traveled across the state to attend this seminar, and this guy spoke for 5 hours how to share your 30-second story. And he was explaining how we connect, how most people, like, we relate more on each other's pains and their struggles before anyone could really care about your successes and what great things that you've done. They want to know that you are like them, or that you could relate, or that you have they want to connect with your humanity first. I mean, think about it. How many of us would actually love Jesus, or even be interested in Jesus, if it wasn't for his humanity? The divinity of Christ is beautiful and amazing, and worthy of worship and adoration, but the humanity of Christ, the love of the Father in sending us a Son, exhausting heaven's resources so that we might be saved. Like, this is what makes the gospel of the Bible such a beautiful appeal to it. And so I realized at that event that it's through the common ground, and really common ground on our pain first, and the struggle and the weight loss. And that's how I learned how to tell my story about I had a heart attack when I was 12 and I was 210 pounds, and I learned to lose weights, and I was understanding these concepts. So it was at that event, and I remember there's an exercise that the guy had us do. We were in a room of like 500 people. He's like, all right, I want everyone to stand up. Your goal is to go sit with a complete stranger, go find someone you don't know, and go sit down with them. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and you have your job is to find three things that you have in common with, and go. And we're like, what? I've never done that. Just kind of like that awkward, afraid to talk to strangers, and like terrified, not knowing what to say. How am I going to do this? So I stood up and I talked to someone else. And I remember the first guy, it was the second guy actually. I was like, so what do you like? He's like, oh, I love sports. I was like, you, do you like sports? I'm like, no, not really. That's the last thing that goes through my mind. And then I'm like, well, what about business? Like, what do you do for work? He's like, oh, I sell sports equipment. I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, well, you have a business, right? And I have a business. Okay, that's common ground. Boom. And then it's like, so where are you from? North Carolina. Oh, my mom's from North Carolina. Boom. It's like, okay. And it's like, and we've ended up finding some common ground. At first, it was kind of challenging, we found it within a few minutes, like within less than 2 minutes. And by the end of it, we had so much in common. It was just so fun to connect and interact. When our time was up, the speaker was like, "Stop, stop!" And it's like everyone, because we kept wanting to talk, and we were so engaged, and like we became friends quickly. Where he's like, see what happens when you find common ground? Now you don't want to stop talking. All right, everyone, stand up, go find a complete stranger, switch, and do it again. You got 2 minutes. And I sat with this lady, and we found these three things we had in common with. And I thought, this exercise is absolutely life changing. Because now, when I meet a complete stranger, as I listen, I'm looking for common ground. And I believe Jesus did the same thing too when he was interacting with people. He's looking for he told these parables in Matthew 13:34. It says, without a parable Jesus spake nothing to the multitude, to the public. And he was reaching people through their familiar associations. He was connecting to people based on what they had in common. And that's how he illustrated these kingdom principles, these foreign concepts to these in this friendly way that people can receive it. And that was some of the lessons I learned about telling my story and really sharing it in a way that people can relate. And if you noticed, I did that too even in this video, is I talked about my experience, my prayer to God, and how I just like wasted my life playing video games, and I had no social skills, and I did not know how to connect with people. And it's because I'm starting this journey that I believe many people can relate to. This is what opens the floor where now people can see, okay, now I can be encouraged by how God has transformed this person's life. And I was having a conversation today, Tuesday. Each Tuesday, I love Tuesdays because I get to coach my clients. I get to work with them a lot more. And I help health educators, naturopathic doctors, coaches, speakers, how to craft their signature speech, share their story in a way that really resonates with people and can impact and transform people's lives. So I was on a call, and it was so fun because Reginae, she has 2 million followers on social media, and she was able to get another $3,000 clients after I helped her to craft a signature speech. And she automated her webinar, and then she brought in a new client, which is like amazing. That was her first sale from an automated speech, so that was cool. And then Dwayne Lemon was on there, and he's like, for years, people know me as pastor, they know me as minister or elder, but what I want to do in my life, I believe God's leading me, is to be a marriage coach, as a businessman. This is something that I believe that I could serve people at such a higher level, helping to restore marriages. So he's like, how can I basically rebrand or change the way people look at me or how they see me? Because when I'm have selling marriage coaching programs, it could be shocking if they see me as a role of a pastor, even though I have a minister's heart and everything I do is for ministry. How do I bridge that gap? So I was workshopping with him. I was coaching him through this process about asking him, like, what got you into marriage counseling? Why do you do what you do now? And we were able to create an origin story to help him to see, like, he was pastoring, but he saw that there's only so much you could really do from the pulpit, and there's a lot of limitations in that. And he did most of his ministry was really in counseling people and marriages and helping to restore people's relationships. And so he found a lot of the work doing that, but then there was a greater and greater demand. And as Dwayne Lemon, he's a quite a popular speaker. He has quite the audience and influence. He's traveled around internationally and speaking, and he's been doing this for longer than I've been out of high school, and for decades. And so there gets to a point where there's just he can't handle so many people with these one-on-ones. So he had to learn to package them into programs that he could sell to people. Um, and then he got his doctorate so he could better know how to structure and get all this education that he could to be to have science backed, scripturally sound, a proven process to simplify people's lives for their marriage and to really have that healing, to break free on sound principles. And so as we were going through this, I wanted to ask him, like, he told me this story, and I kind of repeated back to him his story. I'm like, okay, this is how you want to do this. But he's like, did I answer your question? I'm like, well, it's like two-thirds of it. Because one part of the story that I'm missing is, what was it like? Why marriage counseling? I got everything you could work with. Why marriage? And he shared with me, he's like, well, because I realize when people give up on their marriage, they're giving up on so much more than just marriage. They're making a covenant before God, before angels, before their spouse. And if you're willing to break a covenant with earthly matters, then that shows that you're unworthy for these earthly things, and how much more like you're willing to break your covenant with God, your covenant with eternity. And how we show up in this life is how we're going to show up in the next life. And there's certain things that they just won't be tolerated there. So when you give up on your marriage, then you're giving up on so much more with your health, your finances, your family, your children. There's so much. There's a spiritual void that is there. And I'm like, that right there shows your heart, your soul, your it's like that is the passion that you want to bring in, that shows a transition of your story. And he was just like, in these last 10 minutes, it is profound the amount of help and guidance that you've given me. And I'm just like, praise God. I love it, because that's the stuff that we get to do, is help believe in others until they can believe in themselves, and see in others before they see in themselves. And I believe that's how God looks at us. He sees in you before he sees in before you see in yourself. And we can borrow his faith, Christ's faith, for us. And I think a good mentor is going to do that for you also. And good mentors have done that for me. So with this story, this is really meaningful. And every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, we have these small groups, which, by the way, if you want to join us for small groups, we have multiple throughout the week. Just type in groups down below. If you want to join us, we meet together 6 to 12. It's just a small community, and we go through these really powerful life changing messages. And this week, we're studying about how the only weapon that Satan has is the lies you still believe. And we were going through that, so powerful. But my assistant, who I've been mentoring, her name is Selena. She's been working with us for like 6 months, and this is her last month. She's now moving forward. She's doing a discipleship program locally. She lives 2 hours away in the city over there, and she's opened up. She's been invited to speak at this woman's uh, healing trauma ministry. She's being able to teach new disciples Sabbath school class for new believers. And she's like, none of this I would have been able to do if it wasn't for the training, the leadership training I got in the small groups. She's like, this is giving me the confidence. She's also she's like a clinical counselor, and she counsels people who are going through trauma, who are dealing with drugs, who are on low income and just like going through challenges. So that's where she's got her master's in that field. So that's what she does professionally. And she said that the training she got in the small groups, about how to engage an audience the right way, how the practice and the experience in incorporating her faith and teaching her faith, and the format that we've provided, she's like given her confidence that not only has her leadership acknowledged her leadership skills, where she's been promoted in her job in ways that she otherwise wouldn't have without the training she got in the small groups. And she's way more confident to share her faith in these different communities. And she's got speaking engagements lined up in June and in different places, which is just, it's so fulfilling. It's so cool. And we were telling her, it's like, that's the goal. Our goal is to equip other uh, God given messengers to help you to go share your message with people you're called to serve. And we're it's going to be sad seeing you goodbye, but it's just really rewarding to know that people are being equipped with the tools to connect with others. And afterwards, I had a conversation with someone, and they were asking about, like, how do I connect? Do I need to tell them all of my like traumas? Do I need to tell them all of my struggles and all these things? And the answer is like, no, you don't have to say any or all of those things. Common ground connects tremendously. When people see things they have in common, they're like, me too. And even if there's struggles, like I realize I don't need to go tell everything about what I'm dealing with, but if I know that someone has a challenge with, like, say, connecting or awkwardness when talking to strangers or maybe afraid of knowing what to say, then I could share that portion of my experience. That's something that I may connect with. And nobody cares if I'm like able how God can take this awkward gamer and to be a leader of leaders or influencing literal influencers who are reaching millions of people and teaching them how to influence more. It's like that doesn't have as much of like nobody cares about the latter ends until they can relate and connect first with the beginning of our story. So it just depends on who we're speaking to, of what we want to share or what we would express. And we were talking about how do you know what to share, what not to. And I encourage people to share your scars, not your wounds. How do you know the difference? If you have a wound and you like put some salt on it, like what happens? Like that'll burn, right? That hurts. And those salty comments, they pierce us. But you know it's a scar when you could like you put have a scar, you put the same salt on it. What happens? Nothing. It's like you're already healed. So it doesn't even have to be something that you're not struggling with anymore. It's just something that it doesn't have that emotional like pain and insecurity in that, or it doesn't have like that amount of pain and sensitivity to it that it once did. And so like an example that I shared is that I still have a hard time going live. Like the amount of anxiety that I had before hitting record tonight is just like if you knew. Ooh. But I do it scared and I do it anyways because I do want to go on this journey. I want to document some of my days, my discoveries, my lessons. I want to document experiences I've gained. I've been getting some good feedback that I really appreciate for the comments that you guys make, if they've been a blessing, which by the way, type blessing in the chat if you've been blessed so far from the vlogs. I believe I'm on day 4 out of 4. I'd like to do daily vlogs. I'm not gonna like pressure myself to do it, but I mean, as long as they're live, they're pretty simple for me to do once I hit record. But but that's like an example where it's still if public speaking is something that is challenging. There's a lot of thoughts that go through my mind that makes me think like, wow, this isn't really valuable. Who cares? Maybe this is something I'm just geeking out on and nobody else matters, or like and there's all these things that can go through the mind. And what I've learned is to focus rather than on the mistakes I can make or how silly I could sound or if people reject me. When I focus on myself, that's when it feels the worst. But when I focus on people who I could serve and how people are blessed by what I share, when in the promises of God that God's word will not return to a void in Isaiah 55:11, it will accomplish the thing where it will prosper in the thing whereto He sent it. That gives me confidence to realize, oh, that's good. I don't have to question if it's going to work. I know it's going to work because God's principles, it's His word that works. And I'm just delivering His word and my testimony, my experience with that word. And that helps give me a lot of freedom. So I could share a story like that, even though it's still something I struggle with till this day. But it's a scar in the sense that it doesn't hurt. It's not like something that makes me anxious to talk about. It's something that I could say with calmness, with peace. And I know that like I don't really believe necessarily that's ever gonna go away. I just learned how to manage it, and I believe that everything I want in life's just outside of my comfort zone. So if I play small, then I'm gonna live life with regrets. I'd rather have a life of oh wells than a life of what ifs. Like what if I did that? What if I went live? What if I pursued my dream and and rather I'd rather make mistakes and say, oh well, and learn from it than just constantly be in a life of regret and turmoil and just falling short of what I believe God's plan and purpose and possibilities are for my life. So like that's an example of a scar, and if people can be blessed by that, which by the way, there's other training, there's other concepts that I have about how to speak, how to create content, how to step out of your comfort zone, or how to deal with the stage fright or maybe camera shyness or preparing for like speaking so to calm your nerves. If you would like me to record another video on some of the best tips that I have on that, then type speaking in the comments below, and I'll consider recording a video that kind of goes into those Bible promises that really helped me a lot. But yeah, this is my story. I want to share about how to connect, how I learned, the kind of the journey that God took me through. And the last verse I'll share is in Proverbs. It says, "A man that hath friends must show himself friendly." So if we want to make friends, if we want to be surrounded by friendly people, it starts with us. We want to be that friend we want to see, that we want to have, and that makes a really big difference. So thanks for watching, friends, and I appreciate your time and attention. I'll keep this short, but remember, God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called, and God bless.